Today we are going to attempt to remove our rudder.
There's a ghost in the machine.
Never seen that before. Yeah, that's full of water. There's some metal down here and there's some metal up there, and it's something we've never inspected and it's something we need to inspect. It's really windy today. It's like, it blows our rudder over.
Oh yeah, we don't have the helm.
Yeah, so we took the helm off already, and so the only thing left up there is a little bit of steering cable and then the quadrant and then the tiller arm for the autopilot and some stuff we have to undo up there. And there's a big chunk of bronze down here that we need to expose and remove, and then the whole rudder should slide off. So that's going to be the project today and probably tomorrow, is trying to get this off so we can inspect it, we can make sure everything's good, we can clean this up. There's a little bit of wobble down here, so whatever bushing that's down there is probably gone. So first thing, you need to grind off the bottom paint just down here at the bottom where this bronze cap is, and then see if we can't remove that, and then slide the rudder down. I'm hoping we can take the rudder off without having to lift the boat up. That's going to be interesting.
Looks good.
So this is the like this big brass cap that's on the bottom of our skeg that holds our rudder on. Inside the rudder in the front is a big stainless steel post, and it sits down inside of this cap, which keeps it secure so it really can't fall off unless we rip this whole thing off. And it looks like there's 3 big bronze bolts that are going through that we're gonna have to try to remove. So time to go get the impact driver. I hate flatheads so much, especially really soft ones like brass. All right, 1 down, 2 more to go. All right, it looks like the last one's gonna come out pretty easily as well. But before I finish taking it out, we're gonna crawl inside and take the quadrant off and all that. Put a ratchet strap around the rudder to make sure. I don't think this is gonna come off very easily, but knowing how this boat is built and how easily everything else has come off, it might just pop right off. So we need to take everything off on the inside, and we need to strap this so it doesn't fall down before we finish taking that last screw out. We're underneath the aft side of our cockpit locker here, and this is our steering quadrant. These cables that were attached to it were what was attached to our steering pedestal. Every time you turn the helm, it turns this quadrant back and forth, which turns the rudder. And the one above it, this sort of tiller arm thing, is for the autopilot. We're not sure exactly how much of all this we're going to be putting back, but it definitely needs to come off so we can slide our rudder post out through this dripless bearing down here. So that's what's on today's to-do list.
Oh my God, it's
really windy.
So windy.
The boat doesn't shake anymore, so that's good. Look, watch this, watch this. When the wind gusts, it turns the rudder.
There's a ghost in the machine.
Oh Jesus.
Now, I just have to take these back bolts off. This is like the shaft seal. Inside of there is going to be a bunch of like grease and flax, probably packing material. But I don't think we need to take that off. I think this should just slide right through it. And then we'll take it off once it's through. All right, back outside to take out the last bolt and then see if it slides out.
Should we like tie it somehow? So it doesn't slide out?
We should
it,
should put like some wedging underneath it or a ratchet strap around it or something to make sure it doesn't just drop out. But that would be kind of a miracle if it just fell out. That'd make me really happy. It's definitely gonna come right off. It's already loose. Yeah. There you go. That came off so easy. No freaking way. That's terrifying. Look at that. Nothing like a little WD-40.
Nice. Boom.
Don't need a giant wrench after all.
Look at my hands.
Yeah, that's we got our rudder off. It's actually kind of perfect because like the length of the rudder is just long enough to drop it without having to lift the boat up. So we got kind of lucky. Maybe Pearson did design one thing right. I mean, the whole shape of this boat's pretty good. That's why we're keeping it. But it looks like we got a solid fiberglass tube going all the way up, which is good. That's as good as it can be. We'll clean up and inspect the rudder and see if it's any damage or anything we need to fix. Clean up all this and see if there's anything we need to fix. Probably send the cap off to get sandblasted. Yeah, and then if everything looks fine, we can reassemble it. And if not, we'll have some work to do. But I'm glad it came off. That was the big question mark, was how easily it was gonna come off. And it came off pretty easily. So.
I hope you can hear everything because it's so windy.
It's pulling at least 30, 35 knots today. It's really spicy. All right, sweet.
Hopefully you can hear me. It's ridiculously windy. But while Dan is going to be grinding down and glassing the bottom of the helm station area, I'm going to be working on deck. We have about 200 to 240 holes going through the deck, but hindsight 2020, we already glassed in all of the ceiling inside the boat. Ideally, we would have drilled through all those holes and filled them up with epoxy and then glassed in the ceiling. But since we've already glassed in, we're just going to drill a little bit, clean up the best we can without poking a hole through, and then we're going to fill it up with some epoxy and we're going to fill up all the holes. The reason why we're filling up the holes is that most of the things that we're going to be putting back in are going to be different, and therefore we're not going to be in the same position. We're going to have to drill new holes anyway. So just like we did with all the port lights and all the hatches, we fill it all of them in, and then when we're ready to put all the systems and all the deck gear, we'll just drill the holes as we need it. Oh my god, I'm getting so distracted because I'm trying to not get
fall off the boat today.
blown away.
Maybe you do the starboard side so that you're like the wind is pushing you onto the boat rather than off the boat.
Idea. I'll do that.
It's so windy.
So ridiculous. Okay, because I don't want to drill through all the holes, we have a drill bit that we're going to put in reverse. Otherwise, it would just go straight through, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So I'm going to open up the hole a little bit with the drill bit, and then so step one. Just like that. And then I'm going to go behind it with the Dremel tool, and I'm going to clean up inside of that hole. Cool. And then fill it up with epoxy. And then repeat that 240 times. Well, it rained pretty hard yesterday, so all the rain kind of like went inside of all these tiny little holes and got trapped inside. So we can't really epoxy until the water dries out. I'm trying to like, I'm trying to get as much as I can with the air compressor, but
We don't want to trap water
we
in there.
still need to let it dry,
Yeah.
I think. So.
All right. I can feel it coming out here. That's weird. I think I know what it is. I think that we're like our hull deck joint, we glass the outside of it, and we've glassed the inside of it, but like the actual fiberglass between the two, we never really like glassed, and so there's just some old
tunnel.
silicone there, and yeah, there's a little bit of a tunnel in there. So yeah, that's all full of water. So we're gonna have to like really be careful to dry all that out.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's kind of like our old hull deck joint. It's basically an air gap. It doesn't really matter because we've glassed on the outside and now we've glassed on the inside, so it's super solid, but it has water in it. That sucks. All right, well, the rudder came off easily enough.
Boom!
Which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we brought it over here and now we just need to make sure that it's not waterlogged. It was pretty heavy when we lifted it up, but it also has a lot of solid stainless steel in it, so I'm not really sure how much it's supposed to weigh. We're going to clean up all the bottom paint off of it and then probably drill a few core samples to check to make sure that the foam's not waterlogged. And if it is, then we have bigger issues. We're going to do the same thing to our skeg as well because it's also a foam core skeg. So we're going to drill a couple of core samples of that and check it. But first we have to clean up all the bottom paint off of this. And then inspect it and see if it's in good enough condition to reuse or if we have to split it and rebuild it. That's what we have to do next.
What's happening?
All right, we've got the rudder, all the anti-fouling and all the primer and all the epoxy that we put on all sanded off so we can have like a nice clean fresh start. Also just to inspect it to see if there's any damage, if there's any delamination. Like it doesn't sound, I can't find any delaminated spots on it. All around the edge looks good, there's no rust. This is solid stainless. Remember the discussion we had earlier about rudder posts? The fact that that's solid stainless and it's 50 years old and it looks brand new is a good thing. The base is also, this shaft goes all the way through and it looks fine. It's got like a really nice machine surface that it kind of swivels on, but we're not gonna know if there's any damage inside without opening it up, which we don't really want to do. The way rudders are made is there's like the stock goes down here and then usually there's some sort of like stainless tabs welded on it that distribute that load out into the actual rudder blade. And as long as I don't hit one of those, I'm thinking about just taking a hole saw and drilling in because everything else is filled with foam. I kind of want to make sure that that foam is in good condition. And if it is, we'll just kind of grind it out and like put a patch on it and call it a day. But generally speaking, it looks really good. It's surprisingly heavy. I wasn't expecting it to be that heavy, which hopefully means it's not completely waterlogged. We're gonna drill probably 2 core samples out of the rudder, and then we're gonna drill probably 2 or 3 core samples out of the skeg because it's also filled with foam. And if that goes well, then we can just prime it, paint it, and put it back. And if not, we're gonna have to like split it open and rebuild it, which is work that I don't really want to have to do. There's like a little bit of like a crack here, but the way rudders are built is they're built in 2 halves, and this is the seam. And so the fact that there's like a tiny little bit of a crack here doesn't really surprise me, but it's only down here and it's very small. But it also sounds, this is all solid glass. So yeah, the only way to find out what's inside is to open it up.
Are you nervous?
I'm not nervous, I just like, I want to know, so it's gonna be worth it, but it also does seem to be a perfectly good looking thing. Oh. vacuum works again. All right, so I'm thinking like one out of kind of the middle, and maybe one out of the bottom. If there is any water damage, it's probably going to be down here.
Here goes nothing.
Well, down here is solid fiberglass. That's insane. It just kind of broke off because there's like a little bit of like cardboard or tape or uncured. That might be where the two halves were put together. That's crazy. Maybe that's why it's so heavy. I'm gonna drill another one like up here. There's no way it's all fiberglass.
Drill another hole. Okay.
No water damage in our rudder because there's no foam in it. I don't get that. Never seen that before. Never heard of that before. Interesting. Not what I was expecting at all. Well, I guess the mystery is solved on why our rudder's so heavy. It's because it's solid. It's solid glass, the whole thing. There's no foam core. I was expecting maybe like a couple of mils, 5 to 10 mil, maybe 10 of glass and then foam. But there's no foam in it. That's why it's so freaking heavy.
That's a good thing, though,
That's
right?
a good thing. I'm just surprised. It's like, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's like the first time that we've discovered something on this boat that it's surprisingly good rather than terrifyingly bad. So that's cool. We'll fill that up with some thickened epoxy and call it a day. I do know that our skeg is filled with foam, although I thought this was filled with foam too. But the way that our boat was built is that the skeg is molded into the hull, and so it's a hollow cavity. And then once it comes out of the mold, they filled it full of, I assume, foam, and then glassed over the top of it. So we do want to drill in a little bit in there and make sure that foam's not just saturated with water, because it is kind of part of that structural system. If it is saturated, it means like cutting out the top, grinding out all the foam, and then replacing it. If it's not saturated, it'll be the same thing. We'll just glass it over and call it a day. So let's go drill one more core sample. This is weird, but cool, I guess. Yeah, there's no way that that's solid. That is. That might be. I'm gonna drill one down here because if there is any water, it's probably settled. And maybe one up here. Yeah, that's definitely got water in it though. That glass is good. That's weird. Okay, we're still in fiberglass though. It's very bizarre how like solid and soft it is at the same time. See, like this is solid glass, and then this is like a filler. It's like it's got chopped like glass in it, but it's some sort of filler, and it's kind of soft, which is weird. But there's water coming out of it, which is even weirder. I think it's water. I don't want to taste it.
Don't like it.
Yeah, you can see like this 8 or so millimeters, 3/8 of an inch is the glass that the hull's made out of. And then this kind of filler where it came apart, it's some sort of filler that has a bunch of like chopped up glass fiber in it. But yeah, it's saturated. It's not surprising, honestly. Like, I would have kind of expected to be wet after 50 years of living in the ocean. This is glass with some sort of solid like filler in it, but it sounds like that's what this is. Somewhere up here. That sounds more like foam.
Or hollow.
There we go. Yeah. That's full of water. Which means we're probably gonna have to take all the foam out of it, dry it out. Because the water's not in the actual fiberglass. It's in like the filler they use to like fill it up. we definitely need to fix that before we put it back. There's a swimming pool in there. Good thing we checked. This little stick is 12 millimeters, so our hull, at least here, is 12 millimeters, half an inch, which is solid. But it's also full of foam, and that foam is completely saturated with water, which I don't think I'd expect anything less. The boat's 50 years old, and that's 50-year-old foam. So yeah, the way our boat was built is like all of this shape was glassed into the mold, and then it looks like they filled this bottom piece with some sort of like thickened resin filler, and then they filled the rest of it with foam and they glassed it from the inside. So while everything is removed out of the cockpit lockers and all the steering system is out, we can cut that fiberglass out from the inside and then get something long and destructive and crush up and get rid of as much of this foam as possible, dry out this whole cavity, and then fill it full of new foam and then glass it off so it'll be strong again. It does have a bit of a wobble to it, but I don't know if new foam's gonna fix that or not. But yeah, we definitely have to get all that water out of there because there's a lot of it. So I'll probably just drill a couple of more holes and help it drain. And then, yeah, next we're gonna have to cut out from the inside and try to get this wet foam out of here. I may have made it into the actual bilge. Lovely. Still solid there. So the foam's like in here somewhere. And this, I'm pretty sure I think I just went up into the cockpit locker. Interesting. All right, well, we got more work to do. All right, well, the rudder is out, the quadrant's out, and the pedestal is out. We finished glassing over the exterior and just a little layer of gel coat to keep it protected from UV damage while we figure out what we're doing in the cockpit. But now I'm gonna be crawling into the cave and grinding the underside and cleaning up this whole starboard side of the cockpit locker so that we can prepare for glassing stuff back in. So I'm gonna be in there with the lid shut, grinding for a few hours. I'm not super excited about that, but it's gotta get done.
Well, we're gonna have to let all those holes on deck dry out before we can fill them up. So in the meantime, I'm going to be helping Dan glassing underneath the cockpit.
Let's go. Instead of doing what we did on top and just like do one layer at a time, I'm going to be wetting it outside. It's kind of like what we did for a lot of the bulkheads inside. I'm going to wet all the layers together, and then I'm going to pass it to Dan as like one unit, and then I'm going to climb in, and then we're going to put it in or on. Solid plan, easy peasy. Let's do it.
Super! Job's done. Job's done. Oh. Nice, that worked out really well.
It really did.
Yeah, kind of surprised actually.
Yeah.
It was a little touch together for a minute. Problem is, we don't have a notch trowel, fin roller, because all of ours are covered in dried out resin in the bottom of our cleaning bucket, so we haven't picked up new ones yet, which definitely need to do. But it worked out all right. There's hardly any air bubbles in it. Cool. Should we fill some holes with epoxy?
We're going to try to fill in some of the holes that we know are dried out, and then we'll finish up the rest of them when they do dry out. But I think we're in a good run. Okay, she keep going.
Yeah, day's not over yet.
Day's not over yet. Well, we're done for today. All the holes are sealed.
Almost
all the holes are sealed.
We got the majority of them done.
Yeah.
All the ones along the hull deck joint are done. Most of the stuff in the cockpit's done. There's always like more little holes and things to fill and fair and goo, but that was a big majority of them.
At least now, if it rains, it's not going to, raid inside the boat.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of things done this week. I'm happy.
She's looking even more ratty, but in a good way. Yeah. Next we'll be, at least outside, we'll be sanding everything down, like scuff sanding and grinding everything down and getting it ready for paint or primer.
Yeah. And then inside we'll do some more work and then getting ready for primer as well.
The good news is, like, out here, we already did a ton of work on deck in Guatemala when we glassed the hull deck joint. And we removed like 700 other holes. And then it's like almost 1,000 holes in our boat. That's a lot of holes.
That's a lot of holes.
Well, because there was 700 for the tow rail and all the other stuff, because there was all the screws. And then we put 200 more in, and now we filled them again. It's 900 holes, plus some more. One of our goals is going to be minimizing the amount of holes that perforate the deck.
Yeah.
For several reasons. One, they leak. Two, the less bolts the better, because when we insulate underneath the deck, if the bolts are exposed, they'll have water condense on them and drip and get things wet. And so if we have no stainless steel protruding through the deck, then there's nothing for water to condense on. So that's another goal. And it's heavy and it's expensive and you have to polish it. So 200 holes are sealed, and like hopefully we're not going to be putting hardly any back through.
We'll put a few.
Yeah, cleats.
Important ones.
Cleats. That might be it.
But can you not put cleats through the G10 as well?
You probably technically could if you like stuck a thick enough layer of G10 that you could like tap it through. The ones in the stern and the ones in the bow go through to like watertight compartments, so that's less of a concern. Maybe we do that on the midship cleat.
Anything that goes inside the cabin, maybe we could do through G10, because we're thinking of doing
G10's expensive.
G10.
That's the problem. G10 is like this like super strong fiberglass and epoxy, and it's like heated and compressed in an oven, and so you can actually like thread it and tap it and use it almost like a nut, but it's not good like for things pulling out. It's good in like shear with a bolt, so like it's good for winches. Cleats technically, I mean, they're kind of in shear. Yeah, we probably could.
Yeah, because it pulls sideways. You never pull it.
We probably could.
Up.
At least on the middle ones. The problem is it's really good stuff, but it's very expensive.
There's not a lot of things on the boat that pulls up.
Blocks.
I mean, yeah, and then Traveler maybe for the main sheet.
Yeah.
But in terms of like stanchions and cleats and anything that we attach that goes through the deck, technically, we could have done G10.
Well, and we'll
have to do more research on that.
We've got an idea for stanchions that aren't going to be stainless and aren't going to have bolts, so that's coming up. And we're also 50 years ago when this boat was built, things like Sikaflex weren't a thing.
Or G10.
They had silicone, so they had to screw everything together to hold it together. And now we can just Sikaflex stuff on, and it's strong enough. I mean, modern boats are glued together, and they hold up just fine. Cool. So that's done. I'm tired.
Yeah. I'm tired too. I have like this weird hunger pain, so I'm trying to stretch it out. But we're done for today.
Yeah,
we are gonna shower.
We're gonna let this cure.
And then, I mean, it's gonna cure while we're gone. We don't have to be here for that. Yeah, and then we'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Arrivederci.